Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the May edition of the Wealthy Travel Agent Power Hour. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you taking out some time on a busy time. It's Wednesday, and uh, I'm reaching you here from beautiful Seattle. A lot of you have been coming up this way for cruises, sending a lot of clients up this way. Well, let me just assure you that the weather has been fantastic. There has been no rain for a week. It was 85 degrees. Actually, I think it got up to 90 one day, which just happens to be a whole lot warmer than it was in Atlanta and LA and San Diego. So that's unseasonably warm for us. So we're having great weather up here for your clients who are coming up to catch cruises or just coming out to visit the Pacific Northwest. It's a great time of the year. It's the reason why we put up with all the rain that we put up with, or I shouldn't say the rain, but we get a lot of what do you call that? The gray marine layer, because once that lifts, it's absolutely stunning. And so that's what we have going on out here. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. This is the May edition of the Wealthy Travel Agent Power Hour. We still have people joining us. We had almost 200 sign up. So we'll get started here now. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in the world today, and we work very, very hard at getting our clients. It's something that we pay a lot of attention to, what we call the attraction strategy, meaning all the advertising, the marketing, the prospecting, the things that you do to get those clients in. But once you get them, it's important that you keep them. And I'm going to show you how that all works here in just a few minutes here. So let's get started. Let's get moving. So it's just me today, so I don't have anybody monitoring the boxes or anything else. So if you would, if you've got questions as we go along through here, just type them into the chat box or into the Q&A box. You've got some tabs there that should tell you what to do there. This session is being recorded. Fortunately, I remembered to do that this time at the very beginning, so it's coming in loud and clear right now. You want to shut down any distractions that you may have, and pay attention for this hour, whether it's your email or Facebook or any of the other things that might be a distraction in this day and age, so that we can stay focused on why we're here and the purpose of the Power Hour. And again, thank you for taking time out of your day. This is a busy time for a lot of us, whether we're selling or, in a lot of cases, it's everything that you sold in the fall in January, March is now starting to travel, whether it's to Alaska and Europe. So you're busy with the documents and talking to clients and getting everything going there. So thank you for joining us today. I really do appreciate it, and hopefully this will be of a great benefit to you. As you know, I'm Dan Chappelle. I'm the Wealthy Travel Agent. My mission is to help develop sales leaders in the travel and tourism industry by increasing their sales to the affluent traveler. You've heard me say this before. You'll hear me say it again. It'll be a broken record. There is no time like the present to start selling to the affluent traveler. It's the biggest market out there today. Okay, over 50% of the baby boomers the baby boomers control 50% of the discretionary dollars in the marketplace today, but yet 10% of the marketing is focused on them. You see that the luxury cruise lines are coming out with new ships left and right. Tour companies are putting on new itineraries, nicer buses, motor coaches. The river cruise business is going haywire. The luxury hotels, it's all growing. It's all out there rapidly. The demand is there. The demand is out there. We need to fulfill that. The best way to build your business up is to sell products that make more money for you, and that opportunity is now and will be there for probably the next 10 or 15 years. I happen to write an Amazon best-selling book on the subject. It's been out for about a year now. Still sells quite well. Much to my surprise, I only expected it to, be appealing to just travel professionals, but it's being bought by people in real estate and insurance. It's applicable to a lot of industries, and it's being purchased all over the world through Amazon. So pretty excited about that. And it's all about getting your ship together, and it's all about how you can take your knowledge, your skills, and grow a successful business out of it. So that's me. That's you. Most of you know who I am, but that's what I'm here, and that's what I'm all about. I promised you that this would be a little bit more exciting than the royal wedding coming up. As always, there's a lot of drama that's attached to this. I was looking for a picture to put up about this, and I was looking at the the Daily Mirror, and they have a lot of shots. It's kind of like the National Enquirer of the UK that weren't quite as tasteful enough to put up there. So this is the big wedding, I guess, that everybody's excited about coming up on Saturday. I'll probably sleep through it, but for a lot of folks, it's out there. But what's more exciting than keeping the clients that you have and maximizing the value that you get out of them there? So we want to talk about having a proactive client retention strategy. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A box, put them into the chat box as we go through. You know, this hour is for you. You know, I picked the subject, but I want to make sure that I'm addressing your concerns, things that you need to work on. If you have things that are working for you, type them in there too. I'll be happy to share them with everyone. But this is such an important piece of what we do, because most travel agents and travel agencies for that matter only have about a 25 to 30% repeat factor. Now yours may be higher, it actually may be lower, but on average that is the retention rate, which means that 70 to 75% of the customers are leaving you. Now that doesn't mean that they're not vacationing, it just means that they're not booking with that same agent or agency 2 or more times. I've done studies on this in my various roles, whether it was at Carlson, which is now Travel Leaders. We did it through some of my corporate clients that I consult with. And some of them are actually, the bigger ones tend to be more on the low end. So it's important that we recognize that. And if your repeat factor is less than 50%, that's kind of a good thing too, because if you've got more than 50%, that means you're not really growing. You're just kind of replacing the ones that you have. So, but 25 to 30% isn't good. So we want to get that up. Even if you were to increase that by just a couple of points, your profits are going to go up astronomically there. Engaged customers are going to most likely to purchase again. Think about the customers that you work with on a regular basis, the ones that come back to you. Why do they do that? Okay, we're going to talk about some of those things that you're probably already doing that keeps them coming back. But what we want to talk about here is moving that out, making it more available to more people that you're doing business with, so that you can increase that retention. There's a higher profit margin associated with repeat business, because you've already paid up front the acquisition cost. Okay, and it's high. Most people don't take into account. In many cases, you may actually be losing money when you book somebody for the first time, because when you factor in the marketing costs, the overhead costs, all of the costs that go into it, if you know what your cost of sale is, it's quite possible that you're losing money. I had that issue when I had my agency. I'm glad we discovered it before we went out of business, because we were close. But you need a higher profit margin. You get that from people who are coming with you time and time again, because it doesn't cost you as much. There's still a cost to maintaining that business, but it is nowhere near what it is when you get the what do you call it? Get them for the first time. I'm sorry, the acquisition costs, because it's expensive. It's very expensive. You know what that is. Okay, it's important if you want to retain your customers, and a lot of people are hesitant to do this, but get your customers to book on board if they're on a cruise, if that option is there. Make sure though that they have your information that they can hand to the onboard booking consultant, and also in-tour booking incentives and things like that. Let them do the work for you. Okay, I had a World Cruise customer that this is how we operated, and a number of my customers, we did this. I encourage them to book on board or book in their tour, because let the onboard consultant spend the time picking out what they want to do. You get the confirmation, you get the commission, you get everything into it, so you just have to take care of it at that point. Okay, so utilize as much there as you can. Don't be afraid that you're going to lose the business and that kind of thing. You can, as long as you give your customer what they need to get there, with all of your information, your phone number, your Clear or IATA number, whatever the information is that they need to book it. Because most of the onboard consultants, it goes back to the original booking agent. Okay, so you want to make sure though that they have all the information that it'll work for you. Okay, lifetime value of the customer. When we talk about repeat business, we instantly go into what the lifetime value is. Okay, and I'm going to show you a slide here in a minute on that. But the old 80-20 rule actually rules on this. You know, 20% of your customers are going to represent about 80% of your revenue and your profits coming out of there. And if you take a look at your customer base and you take a look at what you've been doing, it's going to be that, if not close, in a lot of ways. So you want to make sure that you know who those people are. Okay, those people who are going to come back to you time and time again. And the goal here, as I said, you have a 25 to 30% repeat rate, is to actually increase that and increase that percentage that you have of lifetime customers. So why do people leave a company? And I apologize for the slide here. It's a little grainy here, but why do they leave a company? Why do they leave you? Well, 1% of them die. They do die. In fact, if you do sell affluent travel, it's probably a little bit higher than that. Because why? Well, people tend to be a little bit older. They tend to go on longer trips. Okay, and it just happens. It's a fact of life. The customer leaves the marketplace. Well, you know, there's some people that they just, you know, they've had financial difficulties or something else like that, and they just can't afford to do that anymore. That's a very small percentage. A customer gets a friend to provide the service. Well, in the travel business, I think this might be a little bit higher than that, because the cost of entry to become a travel professional is so low that a lot of people without experience and just want to do it as a hobby actually get into the business. Realtors find this problem as well. They tend to be more regulated and they have to be licensed, but it's a similar type thing where you've got part-time people who are just dabbling in it. And you know, the customer may have a friend who does it, and they end up booking with them. But it's not as high as what most people think it is. I've heard people say, well, all my customers have friends or something. No, they don't. They don't have that. They have they would rather do business with someone like you, but they do feel an obligation sometimes to a friend. And a lot of times you'll do a lot of work for those people, and they end up booking it with somebody else. We know how that works. Customers persuaded to go to a competitor. It happens. You know, a lot of times where you're going to see this happen is actually on board on cruise ships, because you'll have your customers or somebody there. They talk about what, you know, how much they paid, who they're working with, what kind of service they had, all that kind of good stuff. And it's quite possible that you know, that influences people who are going to leave you or come to you, for that matter. Also, there's marketing, there's advertising out there, you know, that persuades somebody to go to a competitor. It does happen. Only 14% are really dissatisfied with your service. Okay, excuse me. Most of the time, you know, that's really not the problem. They may say it, they're really not unhappy with what you've done for them. You've done, and when I say this, you've probably just done the basics to get them there. You may think you're doing more, but they have higher expectations in a lot of cases. But being dissatisfied with your service, you know, there's a number of reasons for that. It could be, you know, the weather was bad. That's why people sue cruise lines and tour companies all the time. You know, it was raining, so we're going to sue them because that ruined my vacation. Well, everybody has small reasons, and it's not big enough to worry about. But the biggest one by far is the customer doesn't believe you care about them, meaning indifference, meaning you booked them once, you got them on their tour, their cruise, their hotel, wherever that is. They come back, you may send them a follow-up email and you don't hear anything back, but then you don't do anything else really much after that. You may send them some marketing stuff to try and engage them, but that's about it. There's not really any personal contact that comes with that. And that's why that they really don't think that you care about them. And that's why they leave a company. And this isn't just in travel. This is in most businesses out there. Is indifference is the reason why they leave. And money is typically not it either. If they're being served well, if you're taking super good care of them and you make them feel comfortable and feel like they're part of a group and feel important, they'll pay more just to have you handle their business. Okay, and so we want to engage them more, and this is why customer retention is so important. Now, the acquisition costs, when we talk about lifetime value, is a teeter-totter here. So your initial cost, just look at this slide and flip it, your initial cost is going to be very high on the teeter-totter scale. Okay, you're spending time, money, overhead. A lot goes into it that you probably don't factor into it, and there's a lot of expense that goes into acquiring that customer for the very first time. But as they book more and more with you, the amount of money that you're spending to keep them, to convert them, and to get referrals from them goes way, way, way down. Because if you've got a happy customer, you're getting the referrals from them, customer acquisition cost drops way, way down. Okay. And so the monetization, meaning the profit that you're making off of them over time, increases dramatically. Okay, because it's a lot easier. If you've got a happy customer, it's easy to keep them, because the hardest thing in the world is to get them in the first place. Okay, so you want to make as much money off of that customer as you can, and lifetime value is it. Now, we're looking at retention, loyalty. The UX stands for user experience, or meaning customer service. The experience that they have with you that keeps them there and maintains that loyalty is going to get the retention up. And that's what we're ultimately trying to get to, is to have a small, well, I shouldn't say small, we want a core group of customers that are very loyal to us, that come back time after time after time because of a number of reasons that we're going to go through here in just a few minutes. That's where your money's going to come from. We talk about the 80-20 rule. This is where 80% of your revenue is going to come from. The other 20% is with the other 80% of your customers that are just, piddling around. And you know that. If you take a look at take a hard look and do some analysis of what you sell, you're going to be able to pick out that core group of people. And you know what? It's important, because they're worth a lot more to you than others. So some customers are actually more valuable than others, and you need to treat them that way. Okay? Don't treat everybody all the same. If you've got people that are coming back to you time after time after time, you want to treat them better. You want to reach out to them more. You want to make them your friend. Okay? My best customers that I always had tended to be good friends of mine. I ended up traveling with them. Even to this day, if I go to Texas and to Austin, I always have a place to stay. I rarely stay in hotels. I stay with my past customers, because they've become such good friends over while I was working with them, and stayed that way over the years. That inspires loyalty. Okay, you treat them better. You treat them like they should be treated, and they will stay with you through thick and thin, and that's so important. When we talk about these folks, they're going to take at least one trip that requires your services. They may go see grandma and grandpa, or go see the kids in college, that kind of thing, road trips and stuff, but they're going to take at least one trip that requires your services out there. And they tend to be pretty loyal. Once you have gotten them, once you take care of them, once I'm going to use this phrase a little lightly, but once they've trained you to do things the way they want it done, they won't even look anywhere else. Okay, they will be very loyal, because they just want somebody to do it for them. And once you know what they want, you can anticipate their needs. They're not going to go anywhere. They're going to be loyal to you. And that's where that lifetime customer value comes from. And you're going to find this more as you start dealing with the affluent market, with the higher end, with your river cruises, with your deluxe and luxury cruise lines, your high-end hotels and resorts. They will tend to be more loyal. Now, your mass market people, you got to break out of that mentality, because those people, most of the time, those folks are typically just shopping for price. Okay, because it is a mass market product. Anybody can get it just about anywhere. But as you go up in quality of product, the quality of service goes up, and anticipation of needs goes up, and that's where your loyalty is going to come in here. All right, so how do we keep those customers? What's important for us to do to maintain that loyalty? Okay. Excuse me, I had to take a sip of my tea here. This is what I call the 5 C's of customer retention. Okay, it's easy to remember. It's communication, content, community, consistency, and care. So let's jump right in here. Let's talk about communication. You've probably heard me talk about the law of recency and frequency. It's a marketing law that comes into effect here, that people will tend to book with the person or buy from the company that has communicated with them most recently and most frequently. Okay, because there's a relationship that has been started through that frequency. Okay, they get to where they anticipate the needs, they anticipate the communication that's coming to them on a certain day, certain time. Okay, I don't. I hope some of you will, shop your competitors. One of your competitors is Vacations to Go. They have a database of over 10 million, I believe. But if you subscribe to their newsletter, you'll see it comes out the same day of the week, every week. And it gets to where people anticipate the needs. So you need to start doing that. Get into a regular schedule of communicating with your customers and your prospect database. Okay, because it does create an expectation. It gets to where, it's a subconscious thing, but they're sitting there thinking, oh, you know what, I didn't see that today. I subscribe to a lot of newsletters and like probably 20 different newsletters in various industries. And, for whatever reason, if I don't get one from somebody, they've either changed the frequency of it or they just forgot to do it. But I notice it. Subconsciously, I notice it. And it's weird, but I do. So, but we want to make sure that we stay on that regular schedule so that we create that expectation. You want to personalize it. People love, love, love to see and hear their own name in print and in voice. So when you speak to them, whether it's on paper, in email, and marketing, or on the phone, you want to speak to them in using their name. Okay, if you have a nickname, if you know enough about them that you can do that, call them what they want to be called. I hate when I get this stuff in the mail that's to Daniel, because they don't know me. My mother calls me Daniel. My wife calls me Daniel when she's mad at me, but nobody else does except the people that we have on the bills. I'm Dan. Everybody knows me as Dan. So if you communicate with me as Daniel, I'm going to turn you off. So personalize it to the way they want to do it. Birthday cards, special occasion cards, things like that. I can't overemphasize this enough. When we talk about communicating that lifetime value of the customer, where they want to know that you care about them, you should know, if your customers, their dates of birth. You probably know their anniversaries if they have one. You know about their kids. It's just by asking questions during the qualification processes, and as you get to know them, you know more about them. Make it a point to send handwritten birthday cards and special occasion cards. Put it in the mail. We don't get a lot of mail anymore. Okay, we don't get a lot of mail. So people will want to, when they get stuff in the mail, they're going to open it, particularly if it's handwritten and it has a stamp on it. Don't run it through your postage meter if you have one, or e-stamps or anything else like that. Then it looks like what everybody else has done. Make it look like it's a birthday card that came from a family member. Okay, this will show that you care. This is another communication checkpoint that you're putting in there, and it's all about building loyalty. Now, when we're communicating, you've got two types of communication that you have out there. There's strategic and there's tactical. Now, when you're doing your strategic, this is going to be your newsletter. If you've gone on a fam trip and you do trip reports and things like that, these are the things that you're going to go out. These are more informative. This is about building your brand, building your specialty, building your reputation, making them constantly aware of who you are and what you do. And if you go on a fam trip or you take a vacation trip, don't put it all into one single report. Break it up. You can use that. So if you do something every 2 weeks or so, you can take what you've written for all of these things and just break it up into over about a 5 to 6 week period. Then you've got the content to fill that in. That's a lot of times, and we'll talk about content in a minute, but that's a lot of time what we tend to lack. We don't have enough to say. Tactical, these are promotions. If you know enough about your existing customers right now, you know what they're interested in, you know where they want to go next, you know what the bucket list things are. So you want to make sure that you're communicating with them with tactical promotions that are directly related to what they want to do. If you've got someone that wants to take an Oceania cruise, you're not going to send them a 3-day carnival promotion. I hope not. because that just tells me you don't know what I'm interested in, and then I kind of turn you off there. So make sure that you ask the questions, okay, when you're talking to the communication process. And it's important, because the more you know about that customer, put it in your database so that you don't forget, but the more you know about them, the more likely you are to get their business. Okay, so that's what communication's all about. Next is content. Okay, now one of the things that is pretty much proven is people want to hear about you through articles, through advertorials, whatever. They don't want to see an ad per se. Okay, I once when I first opened my travel agency, one of my first customers was a writer for Texas Monthly magazine. Texas Monthly is one of, when it comes to state type magazines, it's probably the biggest in the United States. It's goes all over. I can buy it here in Seattle on the newsstand. But rather than buy an ad, that person had such a great time on her trip, she wrote a little like 3-sentence paragraph about her trip and mentioned that she bought it from us. Our phones blew up. Okay, we had people from all over the country, mainly out of Texas, the ranchers that I would have never communicated with, hundreds of miles away from Austin, because they saw that, and it was basically verified by a writer in that, they contacted us for that. So that's what content is versus an ad. Okay, so but when you are communicating, you want to make sure that you use suppliers and destinations that fit the needs of your clients. Okay, and even with your prospects, if you know enough about them, make sure they're getting what they need on that. As I said, you don't want to send a Carnival promotion to an Oceania guy, or a Globus to a Talc, that kind of thing. Use and write your blog. If you don't have one, it doesn't take a lot of effort to do it. It just takes consistency, which we'll talk about that later too. Just do a little bit, just a couple of paragraphs, send it out. Okay, I do this with my personal coaching clients. I get them started on writing a blog so that they're communicating with the recency and frequency in front of their customers. Okay, so write about your content. Take selfies. Take pictures with your, if you're at an event and there's a vice president of a cruise line or a president of a cruise line or something, get your picture made with them. And that way you can stick that into your blog or into your communication that adds credibility to your customers. And one last thing on that, when you do this at conferences and stuff, please take your name tag off. You don't want to look like you went through the receiving line. You want to make sure that, it looks like you met them somewhere, you're good friends with them, that kind of thing. Not just, hey, I met you at a conference kind of thing. It lacks the credibility there. But take your blogs, take your trips, take your fam trips, whatever it is, record. I just talked to one of my coaching clients yesterday who's going to Puerto Vallarta to inspect all-inclusives. Do some Facebook Lives. The beauty of that is they're recorded. Okay, and you can use those. You can put them in your blogs to send them out, things like that. The most popular feature in any newsletter is recipes. Viking River Cruises recognized this years ago and include that in just about every newsletter that they do. Oceania does it as well because of their focus on culinary. Use recipes. People like to cook things. They like to see things. They also want your recommendations. Okay, people come to a travel agent typically because they want you to tell them what to do, where to go. They may have a rough idea of what they want to do, but they're looking to you for recommendations. This is part of your value that you add, is recommended. So put some of your recommendations in there. Say, hey, you know what? I visited the Hard Rock in Punta Cana, and I stayed at the Majestic, or I stayed at the Rui, and here's my thoughts. My recommendation for those of you with children is to stay here. Okay, those of you who are retired, stay there. Those of you looking for an upscale experience, stay here. This is what they're looking for from you. Okay, utilize supplier press releases. Hopefully if you're not subscribing to those already, a lot of times you'll see these if you subscribe to James Shillingwaugh's Insider Travel Newsletter. Usually a lot of that comes from press releases, Travel Alliance with Travel Pulse Daily and stuff. A lot of the press releases feed into there. A good place to get information that's not out there generally is you go to seatradecruise.com or you go to cruiseindustrynews.com, and you're going to see some stuff in there about future new builds. You're going to see a lot of stuff that you don't typically see in the feeds that come out to the travel agency community. So that's something that's unique that can help set you apart from there. Destinations websites, use that for your content and collateral. You know, they put a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of money into these things. So use the pictures that they have, the high-res pictures, logos, content. You know, most of that is available for you to use. You have permission as a travel professional. You may have to ask, you may have to click the box that says you agree to use it for such and such purposes, but that's fine. Okay, you want to use the information that's out there, and you may need to take it and just kind of personalize it so it sounds like it's coming from you and not from a professional writer that wrote it for somebody. But the destination websites, you know, whether it's Puerto Rico, St. Thomas and the Virgin Islands, the local tourist boards and stuff like that. Seattle, we have a great one here. Visit Seattle. You can get a lot of great information to inform and to teach your clients about where they're going and what they're doing. Community. Community is something that this is about keeping your people engaged with each other, creating a community of raving fans. You know, if you don't have one already for your agency, or even for yourself, if you're just an outside agent or work for someone, set up your own Facebook community page, okay, and invite your customers to be part of it. As they book with you, as they've traveled with you, invite them to put their pictures up. You know, have a photo contest. Do things to keep them engaged. Recognize them. Feature them. Feature them either in your newsletter. Feature them on the site. Tell them, you know, if with their permission, where they're going. People like to see their name in print. They like to see their pictures in print. It's just an ego thing that a lot of people have. So form that community, invite them to be a part of it, invite them to talk to each other, okay? And use those, what they say, you know, you can use those as testimonials in your marketing to help get new things, okay? Customer appreciation events. There are, well, actually, let me go back to the community. So one of the companies I work with is AAA. One of the agents actually set up her own community page. She has over 400 people. Now, this is a AAA travel agent that, you know, works on salary, works in an office, but she has taken that to heart and built that up. And that community also invites, you know, if you've got raving fans that are in there, their friends and family are invited to join. And so now they're all being communicated with as part of that Facebook group. And she's building a great core business for herself out of that. So if you do that, it's great. Now, customer appreciation events. There's a couple of folks that I know of that do these live. There's a travel agency in Southern California that probably spends $100 grand on these. There's an agency that's in Northern California that I'm aware of. She just does a dinner every quarter for her customers, or top 20 customers or so, cooks it herself. You know, you can do things like that to show your appreciation. If you're small and you only have a few customers, invite them to dinner or an event somewhere. Take them somewhere. Take them to a concert, or, you know, something that keeps them involved and knows that they appreciate it. You can do this online as well. You know, within your Facebook community, the group that you have, you can have a customer appreciation event. You can do online presentations to them. It's all about keeping them engaged, keeping them involved, keeping them as part of what you're doing in there, okay? Creating that community. Consistency. This is probably the biggest thing right there. If you only do it once in a while, don't get mad when you only get results once in a while. You know, I'm personally guilty of this in a lot of ways. I try to do my newsletter every 2 weeks, but sometimes if I'm traveling, I miss it. Okay, so it gets back to that expectations that it's going to come at certain times. So, you know, you got to be consistent, or you're just going to get results every once in a while. So, marketing plan. You've all got marketing plans, I hope. Now, your marketing plans should consist of attraction marketing and retention marketing, and they are two separate things. Okay, make sure that you have, because your attraction is going to be a lot of different things here, and you're going to spend a lot of money on that, versus your retention modules, okay, which is going to be the regular communication that you have with them and things like that after the fact. Okay, follow your marketing plan. If you say you're going to do it every 2 weeks, do it. Okay, I got to do that myself. I got to be more consistent about that. But make sure you follow your plan. so that you're communicating with them regularly. The messaging, okay, the consistency is going to be your messaging. If you are specializing in a certain area, whether it's river cruising, whether it's all-inclusives, doesn't matter really what it is, you want to make sure that you have a consistent message going out about who you are and what you do. Okay, that's part of your branding. That's the tagline that you have out there. So when you're messaging that you're working with, you're selling higher end products, okay, remember, you got to tell them that you're selling that, because they don't know, a lot of them don't know that you're doing it. So if you're selling Crystal and Talc and A&K and Cox and Kings, or whatever, whatever those are, you got to tell them in that. And as you're doing this, it's consistently branding you as someone to come to for those upscale travel products. Okay, that's key. You're not going to get the Carnival calls or the Globus calls or the mass market tour and cruise line calls by branding yourself and messaging to them, sending that message that this is the product that you deal with, this is the market that you work with, these are the type of clients that you work with. Valerie Wilson Travel out of New York does a fantastic job of that. There's a number of others that do that as well. You want to make sure that they know who you are on a consistent basis. Use templates. Okay, for my emails that I send out, I have a template that I use. So it comes in and it looks exactly the same every single time, so that when people see it, they know what it is. Okay, and work within that template and keep it going through there. But be consistent. That's more than anything else. It's just the consistency. We all get tied up doing a lot of other things, and with clients and projects and this and that and family and everything else in life. So we tend to forget stuff, or we tend to put stuff off. I'm a big procrastinator. That's part of and I recognize that. But you got to do it. Got to do it on a consistent basis. So let's follow our marketing plan and work on that. Care. At the end of the day, it's really about caring for them, and you want to show them the love. Okay, how do you show them the love? Well, you try to get to be friends with your best customers. I mentioned earlier, what did I do? Hey, I spent so much time with them. I'd go out to dinner with them. I'd invite them out. They'd invite us out. And I stay with them now when I travel to Texas. Become good friends with them. Okay, once they know that you're going to take care of them in a great way, they're going to, the more you do business with them, the closer you get to them. Always recognize, though, that it is, first and foremost, it started out as a business relationship. So you got to make sure you keep those clear. But you become friends with them, they won't even think about calling anybody else. They're going to come straight to you. Okay, always do that. Always ask the word why. So when you're talking to one of your clients and they say that they want to go to, let's say, Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia is a pretty popular place to go right now, particularly with the baby boomers. So you ask the question, why? Okay, why? Well, back when I was serving in Vietnam, I fell in love with the countries, and I've always wanted to go back, take my wife and see it. Why? Okay, that's the why. Okay, that creates that emotional connection. You want to keep doing that so that you can get in close with them, and it creates trust. Caring creates trust. Okay, if you ask the questions and you find out the real emotional reason why they want to go somewhere, they're not going to shop this, because they know what they want and why they're there. Okay, as I said, caring creates trust. You reach out to them on a regular basis. If someone's ill or there's a death in the family, that's usually where you can tell, where the rubber meets the road, who your friends are. When my father-in-law passed away a year ago, the people who showed up, the people who called. I know a lot of people. I have a lot of friends, but you know what? You know who your friends are when a life event takes place. So send a card, send flowers, reach out if they're in a hospital, just make a phone call. It makes all the difference in the world. Okay. Because when you show them that you care, if you become friends with them, they become part of your family, so to speak. They don't question price, because they trust that you're going to get them the best deal. Okay, and get them the best product that's out there. And you better do it, because they'll talk about it on board or on their tour and stuff like that. But, caring about people, it's really just the right thing to do. Okay, this isn't just a numbers game, and sometimes I know I come across that way as, you know, it's all about money, it's all about this, it's all about selling, 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 and it is all about selling, because selling is how you stay in business, and selling is how you keep your business going so that you can show them that you care. But ultimately, what is at the core is you care about people. You care about what a fantastic time they're going to have on their vacation. You care about, you know, their friends. You care about their families. You want to make sure, and I see this all the time, because so many people make themselves available 24/7 to their clients because they care about them. They want them to have the best time. They want to take care of them on the spot. Okay. Again, I don't agree with that 24/7 thing, but it's what some people do. Okay. If you put up your parameters, you put up boundaries, they'll work within those boundaries, but you can always work outside of them, but make it your decision to do that. But caring is first and foremost the most important thing that you have to do. Question here. Where can I get templates for newsletters? I draw a blank when coming up with them. Well, I tell you, that's actually a great question to ask. Depending on, you know, there's a number of resources out there. When I first started out, I used MailChimp. Okay, MailChimp up to, I think, 2,000 names on the list is free. Okay, then they start charging you after that, and you get more resources that come out of that as well. But you know, that's just one of those programs that's out there. But they have templates that you can use, and you can customize them. You know, you can put your picture in them, your logo, and things like that, and use that template all the time. You can also use that to schedule them on a regular basis. Content, you know, drawing a blank about where to come up with ideas about what to put into it. You need to sit down and do what we call a content calendar. Okay, and just kind of map out over the course of you know, a couple of months what you want to focus on there. Once you know what it is, it's easy to come up with the content. For instance, I have a program that's called the SA6 framework. I've called it, you know, it is a sales acceleration formula. Well, I started out from a content standpoint. I write a column for TRO, Travel Research Online, and I did a series based on the 6 strategies that are part of that. You know, starting out in January, it was all about the foundation. Okay, February, attraction marketing. March, prospecting. April is sales. May was retention. Okay, and then in June, it's all about growth. So you create that calendar of what month you're going to do the things in, and just pick a topic, mainly around what your specialty is and what you do. And then put it, you know, use that content. Or if you don't have a specialty, but you want to say sell more river cruises. Okay, maybe that's what your focus is. Your content is focused on filling it with river cruise product and things like that. But that's a fantastic question. I see a lot of that. People draw blanks on that. I do. You know, sometimes I'm like, okay, so things that I take for granted, you know, I need to put it down on paper so that I know that I'm communicating right with people. Okay, let's go. What's next here? All right. Okay, so that's the 5 C's of customer retention. It's all about communication. It's about content. Okay, so we're going to communicate recency and frequency. Content, putting things in that is relevant to the customer, okay, and their needs. Community, getting them involved. Okay, keeping them involved with you, keeping them involved with each other, making them feel like they're part of the family is key to do that there. It also makes it easier to communicate with them when you're using them in a Facebook group, because if you're doing an event, you're doing an online webinar, things like that, you can post that in there and they'll see it because it pops up in their feed. Consistency, you know, as I said, I'm as guilty as anybody of this. Got to be consistent. Boom, 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 boom. Got to do it on a schedule, so that, because there's an expectancy that comes with that. And then just showing them that you care. That's the most important thing. You know, just show them that you care. So that's how you keep customers. Okay. Oh, let's see. We have a raised hand. Let me see if I know how to do this. Okay. Belvin, I see your raised hand. I don't know how to open that. So do me a favor, just type it into the chat and I'll address it there. Okay. So that's what we got there, is your 5 C's of customer retention. So something I wanted to tell you about coming up next week. If you remember, in March, I had Catherine Heeg on, who's a social marketing expert. Uh, and it was such a success on the questions that were asked and people that were coming in, we decided we were going to put together a workshop. We're just going to do this one time only, on how to accelerate your sales with social marketing. Okay, social marketing meaning Facebook, video, Instagram, SEO keywords, which, I don't even know anything about that, so I'm going to learn a lot on that. But we're going to combine that with what I call the old school techniques and things like that, which is, referral marketing, finding those customers through your existing customers and through the leads that you have. So we're going to pull all of that together. Excuse me. I'm going to pull all of that together and do an hour and a half, 2-hour workshop a week from today that's going to cover all of that. It's only $79 per person for this, but if you register today and today only, you can receive a coupon for $20 off, so it'll only be $59 for you to participate, but use the coupon code Facebook. Now, how do you get there? Just go to my website, danchappelle.com or wealthytravelagent.com, and there's a banner at the very top. It's in red. Just click on that, and that'll take you to what we call the landing page. It's going to tell you all about the masterclass, and there's a video in there and everything else, and then you can sign up from there. Okay, but use that code. Use the coupon code when you go to checkout. It's Facebook in all capital letters, because we're focusing on social marketing and how you can use that to expand your reach and expand your customer base selling affluent travel, which is the hottest thing out there right now. The demand is so big, so we want to make sure that you have the tools and the knowledge on how to get there. So new in June, what are we going to do in June? Well, I have personal coaching, as most of you know. I do that. I have 3 slots that become available in June. It's a 6-month program. It's on a rotation, so there's always spots coming up each month. I have 3 spots that are available. They're on first come, first served basis. We follow what I call the SA6 framework program, which is we start out with making sure you have a solid foundation. We go into attraction marketing, prospecting, sales, retention, some of what we talked about, a lot more depth about what we talked about today, and then put a strategy in place for growth. How do you grow your business from there as you build it up through there? So I've got 3 slots available coming up in June. So if you're interested, just click on that link on danchappelle.com. There will be a form you got to fill out, because you do have to apply. I don't take anybody and everybody. There's a certain commitment of people that I want as part of this. Okay, just because you got the money to pay for it doesn't mean it's good for you. So, or that we're good for each other. So, fill out the form, and I'll get back to you on that. Back in February and March, as I tried a Facebook campaign, a lot of us have done that. Okay, I gave away 15-minute coaching sessions. So what I did, I ended up with over 100 of them. Is what we did, is what came out of that. And one of the things that came out of all of those conversations was, you want more from me. You want more from me. You may not be able to afford to buy the courses, but you want more. Okay, a lot of information, a lot of knowledge that you can use and implement on a daily basis. You want access to that. So I had a membership program called the Vault, which was it was okay, but the platform it was on was pretty rudimentary and all of this, so it kind of went away. The new platform that I host everything on now, which is called Kajabi, we're going to do a new membership site. Keeping with the theme of the monthly Power Hour, we're going to call it the Power Players. This is for people who really want to excel and really want to dig in and grow their business. I'm going to give you a success path. You're going to be able to find where you are on that success path, and then depending on what you want to do, what your personal goals are. If you just want to build a business, okay, you're gonna take one career path, okay, one success path. If your focus is building an affluent business, then there's another path. Okay, so the content will be specific to what your personal goals are as it relates to that, and that includes courses, marketing plans, templates, calculators. I mean, a lot of stuff that goes in there that's going to really help you grow your business. So that's all coming up in June. The next power hour, whoops, the next power hour is scheduled for June 13th at 9 a.m. I'll be posting the link coming up in a couple of weeks, so I'll welcome you to that. Now I'm going to jump in and do the questions here real quick, which is always the best part about this. So let me hop up here on the Q&A box. Julie's asking, is there a formula per se for customer communication, like 1 month after travel, 6 months after travel, 1 year after travel? You know, it depends. It really comes into different, it's up to you. So during the booking process, I suggest at least 6 points of communication. Okay, from once you've got a deposit to final payment, you want to make sure that you maintain contact through that. Okay, whether you're just asking about dining assignments or specialty restaurants, or you know, if they're on a tour, do they want to go to certain places, things like that, shore excursions, whatever you have, it communicate like that. Now, after they come back, so most of us, you know, how do we follow up? We send them an email. Okay, and you heard silence there after I said that, because that's usually the same sound as what you get back. You probably get 5 to 10%, and that's going to be high of a response rate from your customers if you just send them an email. So pick up the phone and call them. If you really want to show them you care about what they have to say and what their trip was all about, pick up the phone and call them. And you want to hear about the good, the bad, and the ugly, because everything doesn't always go right. But you want to know where you can improve, and you'll pick up things about the trip that they were on that you can use as selling tips for the future. I would then communicate, you know, put them on your newsletter, put them on other event things that you have, special events. I would communicate with them at least once a month, you know, or whatever the consistency is of your newsletter, because as they go through there, you know, you want to make sure that they're receiving information from you on a regular basis, so that when they're ready to go somewhere, they call you. Okay, there's you know, there's some folks, I think, you know, like in certain businesses, that I get stuff from them every day, you know, twice a week. That's too much as far as I'm concerned. I start tuning all that out. But if you send something to me once a week, once a month, once every 2 weeks, then that's okay. Yeah, even once a week sometimes can be too much after I've come back from a trip. So, you know, maybe in the month following, maybe do a couple of contacts there, and then put them on the newsletter and go once a month after that. I would definitely, though, pick up the phone and call them. Okay, use the telephone. It's the most unused tool that we have, and it's probably the best one that we have for maintaining customer loyalty. Belvin's asking, what type of webinar tools do you suggest? Well, the one I'm going to suggest is the one I'm using right now to communicate with you, and it's called Zoom. And Zoom, if you're interested, send me an email at dan@danchappelle.com, and I'll send you a link. I don't know, they might pay me, I don't know, but I'll send you a link to them. I find it works well for me. GoToWebinar, WebEx, they tend to be focused on bigger companies. My understanding is that Zoom was built by the guy who built GoToWebinar, but they wouldn't implement a lot of the things he wanted done, so he started his own company. I find that it's a stable platform. It's reliable. That's the most important thing. You know, you've got Webinar Jam, you've got Webinar Ninja, you've got all these other things out there, but they tend to work off of the YouTube platform and things like that. So there's always going to be a long delay going into it. And you know, those that work with the Facebook Live program, there's up to a 15-second delay in what you say before it goes out. What you're hearing from me right now is as I'm saying it. It's live. Okay, they have free programs, they've got paid programs. You probably don't need much more than the meeting portion of it, because your webinars, you're probably going to only have probably less than 20. I get, for instance, on this one, I had about 200 registered. We had over 100 on at one point. So, you know, that's a different platform that I use for the actual webinar participation. But, you know, Zoom is actually a fraction of the cost of the others as well, but it's the most reliable one that I have found. So that's the one that I'm going to suggest that you go for there. Okay, Julianne is asking how to appease customers who have had less than a happy experience on the trip, even though they think everything up to that point on previous trips was wonderful. I think it's just their expectations didn't match what they had requested and discovered what they enjoyed, such as staying in an Amazon lodge after visiting Machu Picchu. They're very disappointed, and I don't know how to appease them and keep them as clients. Well, I guess the question would be, do they blame you? Okay. If they blame you, then you can do some groveling. So based on the information that they provided to you, based on what you knew about where they were going and how they wanted to see Machu Picchu, that would have been what it is. If you put them in a Amazon lodge, well, I hope you knew what that was all about and what that looked like. As opposed to, because they're typically not the Ritz-Carlton. They're going to be more rustic, but that's an expectation that needs to be set. So again, I would get to the core first. Who are they unhappy with? Okay, if it's the trip, then you can work through that with them. You talk through that, and what their expectations were. Okay, and you apologize, and you do all of that, but you keep them with you. I don't ignore it. You've got to address it. Okay, if you ignore it, then they're gonna your history as far as that's concerned. But make sure you're aware of it, empathize with them, understand that you understand that it didn't live up to their expectations. For future trips, what can we do to make sure, what information can you share with me that'll make sure that we get you in the right hotels or the right lodges or the right cruise or the right tour, that kind of thing that will definitely keep them engaged with you. That's showing that you care, that's showing concern, that's showing empathy, and that's also showing honesty. You're asking for the good, the bad, and the ugly. You want to know, and you want to know how to address it. But you also need to ask the question, are they happy with what you did for them? Because you can't control necessarily what happened on the vacation. Okay, that's up to other operators. So maybe you look at that, and maybe the operator played up that this lodge is so exotic and luxurious and all this kind of stuff, and it really wasn't. Okay, well, now you know that. Now you can take that up with the operator. Okay, now you also know not to sell that operator, because Machu Picchu, there's a number of ways you can see it. You can see it from a budget. The way I want to see it is there's a hiking one where you do stay in these little lodges, okay, with wood burning stoves. But that's me. Okay, my wife will want to stay in the Ritz-Carlton version of that. So you got to find out what the expectations were. Fantastic. Okay, thanks, Julianne. I hope that answered your question. I like Zoom. Julianne also mentioned I like Zoom, but it would be great if it had an option to snap a screenshot easily. Yeah, that would be everything's not perfect. For screenshots, there's a number of programs that are out there. What is it I use here? I use Screencast, I believe it is. Snagit. I use Snagit. It comes with Camtasia. It's a pretty easy thing to do there. Okay, now Julie, I agree. Julie Cochran asks, I agree about the phone, but I tend to get a lot of millennials, and they just don't like answering their phones, texting. I want to be more personal and have a phone call. I require it with my first planning to be able to ask why and dig deeper into why more quickly with a dynamic phone conversation. But after that, they just want texts and emails. Very frustrating to me. Any additional advice on this and getting to them? Again, this gets back to your audience and how they want to be communicated with. Leave them a message. There is a communication strategy that you can use on this. I would take it on a multiple pronged front here. I would send them an email. I would send them a text, and I would call them. If all you're doing is leaving them a voicemail, at least it's a one-sided conversation. You're telling them what, in your own words, what you're asking for, what you want. Your voice inflections will show your concern. You can't make them, it's like taking the horse to the trough. You can't make them drink. So give them multiple ways to respond to you. I'm a big believer in the telephone. That's just me. I think that's the most important thing. The baby boomers will communicate by phone. A lot of times, though, people, once you get past that initial meeting or initial thing, then they do want to communicate by email. I want to communicate by email because I don't have time to a lot of things. But if you call me, I'm going to take your phone call. Or if you send me a text, I'm going to answer your text. Okay, that kind of thing. So I would do that multi-pronged approach. I think it's there. Yeah, I can see it's frustrating, but particularly if you're dealing with millennials, But the biggest part of growing particularly into affluence is going to be with the baby boomers, and we tend to communicate a little bit differently than the millennials do. The millennials are going to be a major factor. Their time will come in the luxury end of it, but just not right now. It's more of an offset. Okay, thanks, Julie. I do leave a voicemail. Sometimes I say because it's just too much to type out. I'm that way too. I don't like to type, and I want them to hear everything. And yes, email, text. I leave a text and just left it. It does work. It's better than nothing. Yeah. Again, you can lead them to the trough. You can only do so much. A lot of times life gets in the way. They don't get back to you right away. But our job is to be patient and persistent. So maintain until you get them to respond to you. I would reach out to them on a regular basis just to, hey, you're showing that concern. Don't be a pest, but make sure that you get it up there and stay on top of it for them. Okay, so I think that's it. Let's see. Just thought on that too. They don't like voicemails. Haha. Okay, so that's we've come to the top of the hour, and so I really appreciate this. Again, Catherine Heeg and I are going to be putting on the accelerating your sales to luxury travelers through social marketing and new and old school techniques. So please go to danchappelle.com, click on that red banner at the top, and register. Use the coupon code at checkout. It's Facebook in caps, and you'll get $20 off. So there'll only be a charge of $59 to attend. We're going to go 90 minutes of teaching, and then we'll open it up to questions after that. And I expect this to be just a phenomenal session, because one of the major tools that we have at our disposal, and we talked about this too with the texting and the email stuff, is social marketing, and how big of a role it plays in what we do. So if there aren't any other questions, we're going to go ahead and close this out. I have recorded the conversation today, the meeting today. I'll send you links. It'll be posted on the members area. And with that, I want to thank you so much for coming today. I think I got everything there. Oh, one more. I think Laura asked. Thank you, Laura said. Lori, thank you. Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate all of you showing up today. It's busy. It's what we're here for. But hopefully you got something out of this. This is something we do every month. This is something that you get that will help you be a better business person and help you retain your clients and grow your business. It's all about staying in business so that we can take care of the customers that we have. And I think I got one more slide. So because of you, it keeps going better. If you have any questions, let me know what you think. If you have any other questions, just send me an email at dan@wealthytravelagent.com. I'm happy to answer anything that you have, or dan@danchappelle.com. Any suggestions? What do you want to talk about next month? Okay, this is your time. So, I can go deep on a lot of different topics. So this is one that's near and dear. Customer retention, keeping your clients, is so much more important than the royal wedding coming up on Saturday, that we want to keep the ones we have, because we can make so much more money out of them. With that, thank you so much for coming today, guys. Let's go out there and make some money. Take care. I'll talk to you next month.